Imagine coming home and you find your mother acting super strange. She doesn't behave like usual and it feels like she is not who she claims to be. Even worse, her strange behavior doesn't stop even after days have passed, and you can't shake off the feeling that something just ain't right. And you know for a fact that no drugs are involved, yet it is as if you're witnessing that something has taken over her body and now pretends to be her. Well, what do you do in this situation? In this video, we follow Shaw, look at the problems she's dealing with, figure out better solutions, and attempt to beat the fake mom in You Are Not My Mother 2021. Let's go. Shaw is a high school student who struggles with many aspects of her life. She is bullied in school, has virtually zero friends, and on top of that, her mother is bedridden with severe mental impairments. It is not explained well, but it seems to be some sort of major depression disorder. Her grandma lives with them to support them, but nonetheless, Shaw is left alone most of the time. Today, she woke up late and missed the school bus. To solve the problem, she asks her granny to drive her, but she declines, telling her to ask her mother instead, which causes her a lot of distress. We can see that her relationship with her mother is anything but healthy. Now, asking her mom, not expecting any answer, her mom answers, hops out of bed, and off they go. But it's not that easy though, is it? Her mom spaces out almost as bad as Elon Musk before he found Twitter as a coping strategy. She is completely absent-minded, so much that she doesn't even see that horse blocking the road. Now, whatever that horse is doing there, I don't know, but since this is played in Ireland, we might be better off asking as few questions as possible. To avoid the imminent crash, Shaw intervenes, causing them to crash over the sideway instead. Now she angrily rushes out of the car and continues going to school by foot. And at school, it's pretty much the same shit, different day. You see, it is tough for kids to navigate through life when pretty much every corner of their day is filled with hostility. And the fact that she also must pick up her mom's pharmaceuticals, buy groceries for the family, and pretty much has to raise herself at the same time does not make stuff easier. But it comes even worse, because today is the day where everything changes. Once school is over, she spots her mom's car in the open field with no trace of her mom. It turns out that she has vanished and Shaw was the last one to see her. Now obviously the police is not a big help, especially when the vanished person has only disappeared mere hours ago. However, considering that her mom is ill, the situation should be taken more serious, no? If my depressed mother disappeared living in a relatively small town, I would at least go to check out the surrounding myself. These characters don't do anything, which is strange, but perhaps understandable since it is said that this isn't the first time happening. Anyway, to their surprise, it doesn't take long until she comes home. Now before we see what's happening next, I want to mention real quick that her granny has given her a self-made talisman just a few scenes before. She has also said at the same time that Halloween is about to arrive and therefore the gap between our world and the spirit world will be the thinnest all year. And therefore we should be careful because the evil will lurk in places that we expect the least. Now if that isn't some serious foreshadowing, then I don't know what is, but let's see what's happening next. Now later that night, and after waking up from a freaky nightmare in which she has seen her mom turning into a monster, she hears loud noises coming from below. Now, I don't know about y'all, but when I hear menacing coming from downstairs, I will freeze in terror and won't be able to move for minutes to come. The fact that she casually walks down and finds her entrance door open and remains calm is pretty legendary, not gonna lie. I would have my pants. In fact, I would not have ventured downstairs with at least something to defend myself with. I guess I watch too much stuff that I shouldn't watch, I guess. Now, what she finds isn't an intruder, per se, but her mom sitting on a sofa as if she came home from a terrible night shift attending a children's birthday party. And this is pretty much where it all begins, ladies and gentlemen. So the next day, two key scenes happen. First, Shaw needs to go to the pharmacy to pick up some lithium, a very potent psychopharmaceutical to treat manic depression and other mental illnesses, and one of her bullies actually decides to apologize to her. Now, after having heard that her mother has disappeared, this young girl felt guilty and felt that apologizing was the right thing to do, which personally I find pretty cool. In fact, this is the start of a new important relationship that will save a life or two in just a bit. But at the same time, something strange happens as well. When that girl goes back to her dad, who has seen her talking to Shaw, he tells her to stay away from her and the whole family. He doesn't mention anything in particular, but it's obvious that Shaw's family is not very welcome in town. If we pair this up with the handmade medallion, the many mystical ornaments and runes in her house, and the way her granny talks, it would seem like they are somewhat related to witchcraft and magic, something Shaw, on the other hand, seems to know nothing of. Now, if that claim is true, which, as it will turn out later, is the truth, Shaw's granny would do well to open up to her as soon as possible. Not communicating with someone who is directly involved, be just a kid, is not always the best way to go, especially when lives are at stake. Now, later that evening, when the family has dinner, her mother surprisingly invites her to a day trip for the Halloween holidays, something they haven't done in ages. Now, Shaw is visibly happy about it, surprised but happy, while her granny keeps staring at her daughter with a piercing glare enough to kill her. Now, there is no doubt that Granny here already knows what is going on. It is only Shaw who has yet to figure out that whoever this person is not her mother. Well, the revelation comes sooner than expected, because during the night she once again is awoken by strange noises coming through the door, but this time it is her mom her own hand. Literally the whole hand, okay? Now, she either has a big mouth or tiny hands, but in any way, this is not something you would expect anyone to do unless you're witnessing someone tripping, alright? Look, having had a mentally ill parent myself, freak like this happens, you know, it just happens, but hurting her own hand up until the wrist and further is pretty abnormal, not gonna lie. Whatever the heck that was about, this is where I would personally start investing in precautionary measurement to keep myself safe. If I was Shaw, this is where I would draw the line. I wouldn't go to school the next day, and I would definitely start talking to Granny, because whatever the hell that was, it can't and should not be ignored. At this point, however, we have no idea what we're dealing with, and if you don't know what you're dealing with, there is no way to beat it. Just one thing is clear: her mother, or whatever she is, seems dangerous and therefore requires quick action. Unfortunately though, Shaw, being used to weird stuff happening around her, ignores this incident and just goes about her usual day the day after. Now, meanwhile, her fake mother poisons her own brother with crushed lithium pills and later goes on with assaulting Shaw's bullies. Now, this might be a silver lining here, I haven't decided yet, but let's not dwell on this too much, because just minutes after that incident, she takes her to a nearby lake where she walks into the water as if it was a most normal thing to do. You see, what I find most difficult in this movie is the fact that almost everything that has happened so far could be attributed to mental illness itself. Everything that has happened so far could be nothing more than manic phases caused by various mental illnesses. It is virtually impossible for our character Shaw to understand that there is more to her mother other than her illness. It is almost as if the lines between the monster living inside her mother's body and her mental illness are being blurred on purpose. And I think that is a genius of this movie, and I do recommend watching it even after having watched my video, because I do think it's worth it. But let's continue, because is about to go down, my friends. Back at home, visibly disturbed of what has just happened last night and today, Shaw watches her uncle being brought to the local hospital while being left alone with her mother. What happens next beats everything we have seen so far. Her mother puts up some vinyl and starts dancing to the tune, celebrating her brother's poisoning and being left alone with her daughter. Now, mind you, besides the freaky shit that has happened so far, Shaw has no idea what is actually going on. To her, this is all just one single nightmare. But one thing is clear. After seeing her mom dancing, gradually upgrading to stomping like ravers at Burning Man, only to beat that move by breaking down like ravers overdosing at Burning Man, Shaw finally freaks out and tries escaping. Running up to her room, she is followed by something resembling her mom but behaving like a monstrosity. Her best take would have been to run out instead. I mean, look, being followed by something like that is one thing, but being trapped with it in a house overnight is on a whole different level. I know violence against elderly people, especially when they're your parents, is not well received, but I would my mom with the next 2-pound object I could grab, run out of the house, kick in my neighbor's door, and if that didn't work, break through the window to get some help. However, Shaw doesn't do that. She simply locks her room and stays there for the night. In fact, she even survives, and is even able to get to the school the next day. But instead of class, her school is attending a folklore museum today. While her bullies are preying on her, Char is completely immersed in a voiceover that explains how the beings from the other world enter ours, or how they sometimes even try to lure humans into theirs. The voice says that those beings often use bridges to our worlds, believed to exist in lakes, rivers, or caves. Now this, on the other hand, triggers her memory of her mother trying to lure her onto a trip over Halloween a few days ago, and how her mother walked into the river and probably would have f***ed her if she wasn't as lucky as she was. Unfortunately though, she can't conclude anything further since her bullies are now ripping her out of her thoughts. Luckily, the bully who has apologized to her a few days ago, whose name by the way is Suzanne, comes for help and shrieks them away. Both of them spend the afternoon together and befriend each other. Turns out that Suzanne's mother has died when she was still a child, indicating that she might as well has been by a spirit. It is also revealed that a large part of the town was still a river back then and that many neighborhoods were built over it. This furthermore backs up the theory that this whole town might be prone to being visited by vengeful spirits from the other world. Now they both go back to Char's place where she hopes to have dinner with her family and a friend for the first time ever. I think it's generally the best and most beautiful scene in this whole movie, but her granny is against it, fearing that too much has happened and that it just isn't safe anymore. She declines Char's wish, saying that they need to talk first. At the same time, however, Suzanne is being creeped up on by the ghost of her drowned mother in the kitchen, which, to be fair, is probably the worst thing that could happen to your first friend coming over to chill. Obviously, Suzanne escapes as fast as she can, and Char and her granny finally sit down and have the much needed talk. Now this talk should have happened way before. What is being told here is vital to the survival of many people, and the fact that she has waited so long to come clean was a pretty stupid move, so here's what's up. Char's mom was a very young girl when she gave birth to her, meaning that the baby, Char, was a pretty vulnerable child. One day her mom disappeared with her in a stroller and came back home without her. And after having searched for her for hours, they eventually found her next by a river, which, as we now know, is a bad thing. At this moment her granny adds this.
We didn't want to believe. It wasn't you.
What do you mean?
You were swapped.
So they had found her at the river but realized that it wasn't her, she was swapped. Apparently she was swapped out with a changeling, a mythological fairy being that takes the places of stolen humans. To bring the real Char back, her granny then brought her into the woods, lit up a bonfire and purified her. That is also why she has a burn mark on her right cheek. As we know, fire has purifying attributes in many cultures, and with that ritual, the changeling disappeared and Char could come back to this realm. But what is still unsolved is who is her mother and what do we do with her? Well, currently she's trapped upstairs. Granny is taking care of that. But it's also revealed that the actual goal isn't her, but Char. Her mother is just a vessel through which this is achieved. The plan is to purify her mom with a bonfire, to banish a changeling and free her again. Now let's be honest here, imagine you meet someone in 2022 who tells you that your mentally ill parent is possessed and that we must burn her alive to save her. Chances are you would think that this person is completely insane and should be put in a mental asylum instead. And the same goes for Char. She doesn't believe any of that, thinking this is some ancient madness having nothing to do with science. And well, she's right? On the other hand, her mom's behavior has changed ever since her disappearance and became the worst ever. And here it comes again. Mental illness and mythological possession are really almost identical at face value. So what do? Well, I would just back up and let grandmother do her thing. On the other hand, Granny should have been more assertive from the beginning and just do what she deemed as necessary, without letting her granddaughter dictate anything, because why would you do that? Char is just a 14-year-old kid knowing nothing about anything basically. Well, this leads to the following. Char lies to her grandma about believing her, enters the locked room and frees a changeling which she still believes to be her mom. Big mistake. Her fake mom menacingly walks out, locks her in, and well, Granny. Our character Char finds a dead body downstairs the day after and witnesses her fake mother losing a tooth over making a phone call, which I guess is not normal, and well, I guess she thinks now that I might should have listened to grandma instead, but it's too late for that now. Luckily her friend Suzanne comes just in time and they both can run away and brainstorm about a solution. And of course, the only way to maybe solve this dilemma is to burn the changeling in a bonfire. So they prepare one behind an old warehouse and try to lure the monster into it. Shaw lures her into the prepared bonfire, but Suzanne has vanished, leaving her back alone again. Not only that, but her bullies are preying on her one last time, trap her into the bonfire, and even try to burn her down, until this happens. Well, that is f***ed up, okay? Not only are you alone, but instead of your prey, you are the one being trapped in. And facing a faceless being bearing your mom's voice is probably the last monster you would want to face. Shaw is almost then brought into the other world. Only in the last moment, Suzanne comes back and can light up the bonfire, burning the changeling and letting Shaw escape. Now, a few days later, and thinking that her mother has died in the fire, she comes back as if nothing happened, proving that the changeling has never possessed her mother, but has shapeshifted into her instead. Well, what do you think about this movie? I know this was more of a commentary than a how to beat video, but I hope you still enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments, and thank you so much for watching. Catch you guys again soon, peace out, and binge another one.